Good morning, dear Sangha. Welcome to our retreat for young adults, 18 to 35 years old, our wake-up retreat. We are in the new Hamlet of Plum Village, France. And today I would like to share a little bit about the theme of our retreat, the power of true love. Before I begin, I'd like to also introduce myself. My name is Sister Brightness. It's actually bright-mindedness, but it's so long, so I shortened it to Sister Brightness. It's a very tall order, that's why we have a lot of lights here to help me. I originally came from New Hamlet. I ordained here as a novice in 1999 in this very meditation hall. Be careful, huh? Maybe one of you will also have your hair fall out. And currently, I reside in Magnolia Grove Monastery in Batesville, Mississippi, in USA. We have many monasteries all over the world, and we have 3 in America. And I'm very happy to be here with everyone. I heard yesterday we have 820 young people in this retreat. That's amazing. This is our silent Zen applause, in case you're wondering what are we talking about. Also, I'd like to invite everyone to take a look around you. If you notice something different about New Hamlet, aside that we are very new all the time, there's something that really stands out. It's all around us. I hear some giggles over here. Would you know? You see? Anybody notice a specific color? What is that? Purple. Does it make you curious? Why? Because we are royalty? I'm kidding. Purple is actually the color, I don't know why. We say that it represents our Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. Has anyone ever heard of her? I'm not sure if it's her or him or they, but temporarily we use the term her for convenience. So there's an image of her in the purple bamboo, and that's why we are surrounded by the color purple, to remind us to have loving kindness, to have compassion, just like our Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. So today, before we speak about true love, I would like to speak about the opposite side of this coin called true love. Can anyone guess what the opposite of true love might be? What is that? True hate. Sorry? False love? Yeah. Self-hate, yes. So love and hate are general opposites, we tend to say. But I think we cannot really say black and white, hate or love. Most of us, we have experienced love-hate relationships, right? You both love and you both hate. You can't live without, and yet you also say, I wish I could live without. So we have many different Dharma doors, and I have many props, Dharma props, because I like to talk a lot and I tend to forget. So these are reminders to help me remember. And I think some of them have disappeared. I had a little bag, little paper bag. I don't know if my sisters who were helping me earlier, Oh, hide and seek. This is a wonderful example of when causes and conditions are sufficient, then they manifest. And then when they're not, they hide, like hide and seek. So please do excuse me. I am infamous for being late. I tend to have no sense of time, no sense of direction. But at the same time, I'd like to prepare, be somewhat prepared so that I don't leave the hall saying, oh, I wish I had said that. My most important idea. Why did I forget that? So please have compassion for me as I have many things. I hope also to keep you entertained enough that you don't fall asleep. The Dharma is wonderful. It doesn't have to be dry and dull and boring. So this is why I go all out. Okay. So, maybe this is extra. I will put this. Okay. See, I'm living proof that you can be perfectly imperfect. Because perfection doesn't exist anywhere but in our minds. The greatest cause of suffering. Or one of the causes of suffering. Okay, let's see. A lot of goodies today. Also I'd like to give a very fair disclaimer. I tend to speak very quickly, hummingbird style. So I hope you can all buckle up your seatbelt. And if I'm going too fast, it's okay. Whatever gets in, doesn't matter. It's just because I have so much enthusiasm for the Dharma. So I'm like, this is wonderful, let's squeeze everything in. And this is actually quite interesting. I feel like it's falling off. Okay. So, I'm not used to a professional microphone, as you can see. Okay. Let's see. So, let's start with... I wanted to start off with hate. And I think hate is often demonized. And I think that hate is quite simple. And love is also quite simple. Let me move around a little bit. Can you all see the board from there? Okay. You can kind of see the board from here? Okay. So, I also want to ask everyone to please remember a time where you were neutral. You didn't hate anyone, or you didn't hate this person or like this person, but you heard somebody say something about that person. Oh, did you hear the latest gossip? So-and-so did that. Can you believe it? Or, can you believe they said that? How awful. And then suddenly, from being neutral about this person, our foundation, our feeling and our thought about this person is kind of shaken a little bit. And we may think, maybe this is, if we are neutral here, this is like and dislike. Suddenly we inch towards dislike. And then we hear one more thing. Oh, that person, they're always late. They made the whole Sangha wait for the Dharma Talk. And then inch towards, I'm not sure if I like this person. And then, oh, did you see? That person, so generous. They brought donuts for the whole office. And then, okay, kind of like. And then, oh my gosh, they forgot this and they made everything. Okay, and then, so we go back and forth between the like and dislike. And for me, it's very simple. When we notice something that we like, about that person, their good qualities, things that we appreciate, then we like them more. And then when we notice all their shortcomings, their flaws, their mistakes, and then we have this self-righteousness, and then we don't like them. So this like and dislike, it can from there become love or hate. So we start off small, and then it grows bigger. Like into dislike even, or vice versa. Dislike into like, it just is a matter of what we pay attention to. The favorable conditions or the less favorable conditions. And in Buddhist psychology, we speak about seeds. And many of you may remember last year I did something similar, but I had many more seeds. This year, I want us to focus on 2 main seeds. Yeah, what is wrong? I feel something is stuck. Sorry. Let's see. So I'm not sure if you can see, but if you cannot see, don't worry. You can look at this after the talk as well. Basically, if we say this is an example of our consciousness. This is the bottom part is the store consciousness, and then this top part is the mind consciousness. So there are 2 seeds here. The first one we will speak about today is called the seed of hate. I don't know if you can see it. And for me, see, it also has eyes too. Can you see from there? Sort of? Okay. So, for me, hate is, if we boil it down, it's simply just a lack of understanding. If we knew why that person acted how they acted, maybe when we understand them, maybe we'll have a little bit more compassion. For example, maybe if we know that that person didn't sleep well the previous night. It's such a basic human need. And if we have sleep deprivation, that will really affect how we function during the day. And if we remember our own experience of not having enough sleep, feeling groggy and tired the next day, maybe we will have some understanding for the other person. So hate, the seed of hate is watered when we have a lack of understanding. And then, actually, when we boil it down, I should go from top down. So there's 3 elements I find that bring us to this lack of understanding. One is lack of deep looking. So deep looking would be wondering, investigating, examining. So how come they reacted so strongly? That's a total overreaction. We can boil it down to, was it because they didn't sleep enough? Is it a habit energy passed down by their parents? Is it insecurity? And then boil it down even more. Is it loneliness? Is it FOMA? Fear of missing out? We can help ourselves, when we look deeper, we can help ourselves to understand them more. Another thing is lack of deep listening. I'm sure many of us have experienced a time where we felt like, if only you just listen. Some people are really incapable of listening. They just want to talk over you, they just want to interrupt you, they just want to make their points. And even if they look like they're listening, yeah, and then me, and then and then they up you one by their story, or maybe afterwards they ask you again, wait, which date did you say again? Wait, what was that again? I was like, I just told you. So this lack of deep listening is actually sometimes hard. We may feel like, how come I listen to you all the time? How come you never listen to me? Sometimes I experience that. And then also, I think about, well, what if that person was deaf? Would I say, why don't you listen to me? If they were deaf, I would just accept they are deaf, and I can't fix them. Maybe we can try to offer hearing aids for those who are hard of hearing, or maybe we can learn sign language or find other ways of communicating, but we can't always condemn or force others to communicate in our way, in our style. Lack of deep listening. And another one is lack of loving speech. So for this, I'm going to move this a little bit in case, I don't know if it helps anybody to see the board. For this lack of loving speech, I think we have all experienced more or less when there was maybe a lack of loving speech in the house. You're so clumsy! Why do you always make mistakes? You're so stupid! You're so worthless! And then there's also opposite of loving speech is hate speech. I hate you! I hate this! I hate that! Sometimes we may laugh when we hear things like, I hate my nose! I hate my pimples! I hate this and that, but actually maybe it's very real suffering for ourselves or for others. So I think this combination of lack of deep listening, lack of deep looking, lack of loving speech, it gives rise to this lack of understanding. And hate is made up of many things, like discrimination. I don't like you because you're different than me. I don't like you because when you are different, I don't know if you are safe. If we feel like, oh, these are my people, we may think, oh, I feel safe. Oh, it's not always the case. But that's what we're prone to think and to react in that way. So hate is also made of discrimination, of blame, of othering. When we other people, we don't put ourselves in their shoes. But when we put ourselves in their shoes, then it's very hard to other them. So this is just a brief bit on hate. And from this general hate here, I'd like to also invite us to think about self-hatred. When I was a teen, I had very intense self-hatred. I hated everything about me. I was too short, I had too many pimples, I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't as cool as my other nuns, and I had a long list of things I didn't like about me. I was like, I'm so clumsy, why do I always drop things, why do I, always make mistakes? And when I attended Thai, I would always carry a pen with me, and I would mark on my arm every single time I made a mistake. And I would use that evidence against me to prove that that's why I had the right to hate myself. If I held the cup from the tea for Thai like this, and I would be afraid it'd shake like this. He's a Zen master, huh? But I would then make another cross. And one day I had 15 marks, and I was like, see, this is living evidence why I'm not lovable. And I had a lot of ideas of perfectionism. I have to be the perfect attendant. I have to be the perfect nun. And all of these things made me suffer a lot. I couldn't accept myself where I was at. And I beat myself up. And I had a lot of dark thoughts, a lot of negative thoughts. And it's very easy to lose ourselves and to believe in these thoughts. And if we aren't able to meet good friends, good family members who can help us to remove ourselves from these thoughts, to replace these thoughts, then it's very easy for us to not just hate ourselves, but in turn hate others. Because we think, if I think this poorly about myself, maybe others also think poorly about myself. And then we hold these distorted views, and then this cycle of endless unnecessary suffering, it just spreads out more and more. We may think that we're the only ones who have experienced self-hatred, but I'm pretty sure we have all experienced it at one point, at least one point in our lives. And sometimes more intense, sometimes less intense. Usually when we are teens, it's very easy for us to feel this insecurity. But even long after we are adults, these seeds are still there. Insecurity of not knowing for sure if we are good enough. I don't want to out anyone, but at the same time, I think it can be helpful when we see that we're not the only ones. So I'd like to ask, if you have experienced self-hatred, could you please raise your hand? And you can take a look around the hall. Self-blame, self-hatred. How many of you have thought that you are not good enough? That you're not lovable, you're not worthy? We're not the only ones. So, what do we do with this? How do you turn self-hate into self-love? For the longest time, I felt like I would always search for love from outside of me. I'd look for it in books, in films, in friends, in schoolmates. And then when I landed in Plum Village, I met a Zen Yoda. Can anyone guess who that might be? Can you guess who it is? Who? We can all say a little bit louder, huh? Tai. Yeah. He's a very large reason why we are here. His teachings are very easy for us to understand, and I hope more or less it has helped us in our lives. So this Zen Yoda of ours, he, for me, was a living source of unconditional love. His presence was felt anywhere he went. So in this hall, if we were busy, talking, noisy, he would enter the hall and everyone would suddenly fall into a very kind of calm energy. It was quite powerful. And it was very normal for our friends to save the first row of seats to sit as close as I could next to Tai. Not like now. Sometimes we have a lot of empty seats in the front row and we're like, come, come. Nobody wants to come. They used to fight to save the spots for Tai because just with his presence, you felt like, oh, melted chocolate. This very kind of grandfatherly love, very all-encompassing. He didn't have to say anything, huh? He just was there with his presence. And yet, whenever Tai came this way, in the corner of my eye, as soon as I saw him, I would run away. Which is very odd. Because people pay a lot of money to buy plane tickets, train tickets, to drive so far to come here to meet this Zen master, this Yoda of true love. And I'm running away from him. And I got so embarrassed. It was like a natural reflex. I see, I run. I see, I run. I hide. And I thought, why am I so weird? I wanted true love. I met true love, and then I ran away every single time. And when I attended him, I would carry his bag and tea and water, and I'd hold my breath because his presence is like a big mirror. And he reflected everything that I was not comfortable with inside of myself. And he would tell me things like, my child, don't be so tough on yourself. And I'd be like, what What are you talking about? I'm not tough on myself. But then at night I'd cry. I'm like, how did they know? And then one day when I attended him, I said, Tai, why do you love me? I'm not lovable. I made all these mistakes attending you today. And then he paused for a long time, and I was like, are you gonna give me an answer? And then finally, he very nonchalantly said, I'll tell you next time. What a cliffhanger. And then the next time, a few days later, when he came back to Lower Hamlet, I was there at the time, he said, my child, I've thought about it. Why do I love you? And I was like, okay. Just because. Just because. So I thought, I'm not gonna believe you anymore. You just are being too nice. I know the real me. If you really knew who I was, you would not be able to love me. I have all these unwholesome habit energies, all these dark thoughts. You would not be able to love me. And Tai's like, yeah, I can. And so I really struggled with this. And I thought, how can I, accept this love from him? I'm not worthy enough. Yada, 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 and all that. And then the more I was closer to Tai, just with time, just with attending, my uptightness, like this, I was always on edge. Slowly I softened. And slowly I was able to breathe normally and not hold my breath when I was around him. And then slowly I realized, it's okay. I can just be. That's okay. And Tai he was such an endearing grandpa. He would say things like, my child, I know you can do it. I believe in you. You can do it. And I'd be like, at first I'd react like, no, I'm defiant. I was a teen then, I was 13, so I was like, no. But inside, again, I'd be crying, and at night I'd cry by myself. I'd hide my face in the pillow and just cry. But, slowly and gradually, Tai's voice became my voice. I'm very lucky, because oftentimes if we're not lucky, if our parents didn't know how to take care of their suffering, then their suffering spills over to their children. And whatever their parents' internal voices are, it will become internalized as the children's voice. If the parent was told, you're good for nothing, you'll never amount to anything, how dare you dream of being an artist, you have to be practical, you have to be a doctor, a dentist, or a lawyer, safe jobs, which make money, you cannot be a starving artist. If this is what our parents were fed, and it is then fed to us, it's very natural. If our voices inside our head also become like that, you're not good enough, and then so on and so forth, with this self-hatred. So I realized, okay, I don't know how to love myself, but apparently this Zen master, this Yoda of love, he is a living embodiment of true love. If he can love me, I guess I can love myself too. And then gradually I started to think like him. I'd be like, Tai believes in me. I can do this. Take a deep in-breath, deep out-breath, then 1, 2, 3, and I'd just plunge into whatever it was that I was fearful of doing, which oftentimes in Plum Village is public speaking, leading the walking meditation, leading Dharma sharing, leading, facilitating. And I realized that one of my biggest obstacles to loving myself, to self-love, aside from many other different reasons, Hold on, it's in there. Somewhere there. Let's see. Are you ready? Drum roll. This is not new, but it is very relevant to self-love for me. So, I don't know if you can see this, but we speak about the 3 complexes. The first one is called the inferiority complex. The second one is called the superiority complex. And the third one is called the equality complex. So these 3 complexes complicate our lives. If we have an inferior complex, we can be caught in the habit of always comparing ourselves with others, always feeling not good enough, always putting ourselves down. And for the longest time, I actually misunderstood. I thought that being humble, this is not as big as I'd like it to be. Let's see. I don't know if you can see this. I hope so. But I confused being humble with having an inferior complex. So, if anybody gave me any sort of acknowledgement or appreciation, oh, that was wonderful what you shared. No. No, you're the one who's wonderful and good. No, not me. And I thought that was being humble. But actually, I didn't want to own any kind of appreciation because I thought that would make me become pompous and conceited. And I thought, I see plenty of people who are conceited, and I don't want to be like that. And I thought that this inferior complex was better than the superior complex. How many of you know someone who is very pompous and full of themselves, so self-centered? You're lucky. Not many of you know a very egotistic person, huh? Sometimes it's ourselves too, huh? Not always other people. So when I realized that my issue was inferior complex, I thought, at first I was like, well, that's just my identity. Deal with me. Because if that's the price to be humble, that's what I'll do. Because as monastics, that's one of our qualities, to be humble. And then I realized, wait a minute, I think I misunderstood this teaching. Being humble is practicing non-self. Practicing non-self means that we are aware we are made up of non-me elements. I'm made up of my dad, of my mom, my maternal grandparents, my paternal grandparents, all of my good qualities, my wholesome qualities and unwholesome qualities were transmitted to me. Just generation to generation to generation. There's nothing to be proud about or to be embarrassed about. There's actually nothing that's really mine, so to say. I'm just another earthling. And all of these different elements we see, it's me, it's mine, it's my dad, my mom. Actually, it's just different elements of life. Our parents are also just other humans, other earthlings. So when I realized, for example, I love languages. And my grandfather, he excelled at languages, and he spoke different dialects. So I picked it up from him. And when I translate or when I speak different languages, most of them without an accent, I don't think to myself, oh, I'm so great. I can speak languages without a dialect or something, without an accent and speak different dialects. It's just my grandpa. And what about my grandpa? What was he made up of? Pretty much other awesome lingophiles around him, I guess. So to be proud or to not to be proud, it's really our understanding. How deep is our understanding or how shallow our understanding is. And I thought about, well, what are the things that I feel is something that is inferior for me to always hold on? Why? Ideas of I'm not good enough? Well, that's silly. When am I ever going to be good enough? Someone will always be better and someone will always be worse. How am I ever going to really measure up and compare? That's ridiculous. That's also a waste of time. So, when we are told we should just compare ourselves to ourselves yesterday, to ourselves and the version of ourselves today, I thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, maybe I should do that. It's easy to think, oh yeah, those are nice words. It works for somebody else. But when we actually do the homework, I think that will help us to liberate ourselves. And for this superior complex, it means that we think that we are better than everyone else. My head is up in the air. I'm better than everyone, and everyone can bow down to me. But actually, these two are very deeply intertwined, huh? Actually, the person who has inferior complex is the one who is the most haughtiest of them all. One time I thought to myself, nobody will notice. But actually, when it was brought out in a Dharma talk, I thought, oh no, somebody figured this out before me. So I used to hide, and I wouldn't present myself to the Sangha unless there was absolutely nobody else. That's a form of superior complex that is well disguised. Our minds can be very subtle and very tricky, so we can notice where we are at in our practice. Let's see. With this equality complex, I actually think maybe we should find a different term for this, because usually when we think of equality, we think of it as a good thing, as a positive thing. In this sense, the meaning of this is, well, I'm just as good as you anyway. That's the sense of the equality complex. And we can go above and rise above the complexes by just recognizing the different elements that have made us where we are at today. And when we can look deeply into these complexes and we liberate ourselves from it, then it's almost like when you have chains that are tying you down, weighing you down, and then when you can remove them, then you can just walk freely. You don't have to drag chains behind you. So I realized that I need to accept Thay's love for me, Thay's unconditional love for me, so that I can learn how to absorb this love. And when I absorb this love, I can offer that in turn to everyone else around me, whether it's my younger siblings in the Dharma, my elder siblings in the Dharma, our friends who come to the retreats, the children, the teens, wake-uppers. Everything that I have here today, that you see in me today, is literally just my ancestors, both my blood and spiritual, and then ancestors. Thay has transmitted the whole of him to us, everyone in Plum Village. The community of mindful living. The Sangha has brought me up. The Sangha, the community of mindful living, is my ultimate parent and has shaped me to be who I am today. And society as well. How has society shaped us to be who we are today? Can we change things? If society tells us, you're not good enough, you have to consume this, buy that, buy this latest, this and that, do we have to listen to that? Or can we take a step back and think, well, if I'm good enough already, I'm happy with myself where I'm at, I don't need to buy all of these things. To buy all of these things, I have to work overtime to get the money, to then consume, to then cover up all of my loneliness and my suffering that I don't want to face. Whereas what we learn in the monastery, what I think is the absolute benefit that maybe we should take it really to heart, is that when we are able to embrace our strong emotions, when we are able to embrace all of the yucky mud, the suffering that we don't really like, instead of covering it up with consumerism, with drugs, with alcohol, the first immediate benefit that we get is that we save money. think about all the money you have to pour into drugs or into alcohol, if that is what your idea of happiness or your idea of a patchwork, kind of just to temporarily keep your suffering at bay. And then imagine here, we all practice belly breathing, breathing in, breathing out, allowing ourselves to feel even the discomfort, even if something is uncomfortable or painful. And then we let the storm truly pass, and we gain understanding about this feeling. What was actually deeper? And our money is still intact. We didn't have to waste a single penny. Mindful breathing is brilliant. I mean, among other things beyond this. But I think because I'm very cheap, so that's a very creative way for me to feel more inspired to practice. So from self-hatred to self-love, if I allow myself to learn from others how they treat me, and also if I was mistreated, what can I do instead? How can I offer nourishing love instead? So a part of self-love and self-hatred, I find, a large part of what makes or breaks, not really, but a large condition, I think, for our learning how to love or how to hate. The first teachers in our lives are usually our parents. No, maybe I can just use this because I'm cheap. Okay. Now, may I ask, how many of you have a really good, wonderful relationship with your parents? Both parents, huh? Mom and dad, or two dads or two moms, both parents, okay? Raise it high. Be proud. Or no, not be proud. Just acknowledge. You just have a lot of wonderful conditions. Lucky you, huh? Now, how many of you feel you have a really good, wonderful relationship with one parent? Okay. We don't have to be proud. We can just also acknowledge, yes, one parent. That's a huge feat, huh? And then what about those of you who just absolutely no? Parents, no. Okay. We also just recognize, okay, that there is difficulty. There's blocked communication. But it's also not like I said, black and white, always this, always that. It's rocky. Sometimes we have a great relationship, and sometimes it's meh, and sometimes we don't. It's like the moon. It waxes, it wanes. And it all depends on what we pay attention to. The wonderful qualities, our appreciation for them, or their shortcomings and their mistakes. So for parental love, let's see. I think of my parents and my grandparents as my roots. And when we have clear communication with them, when we have received proper love and care from them, for me, I kind of label that as my parents, my grandparents, they are my healthy roots. And then for situations where there's blocked communication and maybe there's even estrangement with our parents, I tend to think of that as rotten roots. Not as a good or a bad, just calling it as it is. Let's see. I have a lot of things here, as you can see. Now, where shall I start is the question. I feel a little bit like a magician giving you a magic show, but actually I'm not sure where I should start. So this is an example of, this water is an example of true love, of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. This huge plant here, I think it's called a spider plant. you can see there's many baby spider plants that are connected to this plant, right? And let's just acknowledge the state of this plant. Do you think it looks healthy? Ish? Healthy-ish? It's been attacked by something. It's been eaten a little bit here and there. I wonder what. And then down here, there's some wilted brown leaves here as well. I'm not sure if this camera is seeing this. And then there's many, many plants down here. Now, if this little baby spider plant, these ones here, if they said, well, I don't want to have anything to do with you. This is my life. I can do whatever I want. I don't need you anymore. I'm 18. I'm moving out. Do you think that's really possible? This is super connected to this big plant. So if this little plant wants to go anywhere, it has to drag the whole parent plant with it. And we do. We do drag our parents everywhere we go because they have transmitted, literally, their genes to us. I am a literal copy of my mom and my dad everywhere I go. So when we say we want to cut off our parents, they cause the suffering. Yeah, it's like, it's a cute idea. But remember these baby plants when you think of that line. Now let's say, I don't know if you can see this. The state of these plants, it's kind of dried up and shriveled. And so this earth here, it looks like it's dark, like there's water. But actually, I don't know if you can see this, but it's very dry. And normally, when it is this dry, the earth is unable to absorb the water. So for example, if this is a neglected relationship, and this unconditional love, we can say it's like a flower watering or expression of my goodwill, my appreciation, my good intention of wanting to reconcile. And then I think, okay, I have poured. And then I think, well, I've done my duty. It's your fault if you don't want to reconcile with me or if you don't want to talk to me. But actually, the water, you can see, it's not really much. Now let's pour some more. I don't know if you can see in the camera, but the water is only on the surface. And even when it passes through, it's going down. It goes down very quickly. It doesn't really have much time to absorb. You can see how the water, when it trickles out very quickly like this, it usually means that the earth doesn't have enough time, the dirt doesn't have enough time to absorb. So if our relationship and our love has been neglected for so long, our hearts have shriveled up, have dried, the suffering has taken over. We're like a dry desert. Then, one word of kindness or one kind act, it's kind of like if we were in the desert. Like yesterday was super hot, right? It was 42 degrees Celsius. It's like in the hundreds Fahrenheit. One drop going around, and then it's like if we're in a desert, before it even reaches the ground, it's already evaporated. So in the same way, sometimes our relationships, if they have been neglected for too long, even if we try to water love or kindness, it would just go straight through, and they're unable to receive that love and that care because they're not ready. So instead of victimizing ourselves by saying, oh, how come they don't want to? How come? If they're not ready, they're not ready. Just like this earth. It doesn't mean that we are bad. so bad that they cannot accept us. Let's detach ourselves from this idea, because I think that causes a lot of suffering. After this first round, instead of continuing straight on, we have to allow some time and space for the earth to slowly allow the water to penetrate into the earth, into the soil. And then the next time that we water, even though the water may still drip out like this, you see how fast it is? The more fast it is, that means that it is still too dry. But if we continue drip by drip slowly, then the earth will have time to soak up the water. With orchids, we literally soak it in water, and then after that we take it out. This one, we don't know if it's salvageable or not, but this one you can see more clearly that the topsoil is very dry. The water is still down here dripping. So I like to use this as an image of our relationships, whether it is being neglected with ourselves or with our loved ones. We can examine to see where we are at. And if we allow ourselves some time to look deeply, to listen deeply, to use loving speech, then we can arise at understanding. And this, for me, the seed of true love here, this is applicable to all relationships, whether it is platonic or romantic, whether it is with our parents, our siblings, our coworkers, our friends, our cousins, every human being. Oh, I think I used it all up already. Let's go over here. So, So for our roots, whether we have grown up with healthy roots or rotten roots, I think as adults, now we have the capacity to learn how to do things. We learn how to be independent, and we can fix things now. We're not as vulnerable as we were when we were children. So if you come across rotten roots as adults, maybe you will have an idea of what you can do to repair, to nourish, maybe clean out some of the gunk or the mold. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually what is needed for the plant. But as adults, we can discern what we need. And if our parents were able to give us love, that is wonderful. If our parents were not able to give us the proper love and care, we can also learn how to heal ourselves, and then we can generate this love and then offer it back to our parents. And it's not easy, and you definitely can't do it overnight. But it is possible. And even if we don't know our parents, our biological parents, I always reassure myself that we actually all came from Mother Earth, so she is actually our true mother. And do you remember how hot it was yesterday? So our Mother Earth is really suffering from this heat. And when we were very hot, we all tried to find a cool area, a cool room, ice cream, cold water, anything to appease ourselves, to help ourselves cool off. So in the same way, we can learn to love ourselves, our parents, our family, our friends, but also Mother Earth. And we can be creative. We don't have to shout or talk over each other. When we fall in love, we will always find a way to make things work. If we fall in love with Mother Earth, if there's a specific place, whether it's a national park, whether it is your childhood home or city, we can find ways to better understand and better meet the needs and protect. Let's see. For this, not just parental love, but for any kind of love, whether it's romantic, platonic, or friendship, motherly, fatherly, sibling, self-love, patriotic, Mother Nature, Mother Earth, I think we need to also cover some terminologies. Now let's imagine that this is our lifespan. You think this is long or short? Short? You can nod your head now. Long? It's longer than a worm. So the answer is neither long nor short. Trick question. Depends on how you look at it, which perspective, which angle, and what you're used to. If you're used to a whole roll, then yeah, this is short. But if you never had anything to start with, then this is a better deal than nothing. So let's say that this is our lifespan. And we have, in our relationships, we have a lot of obstacles. This block communication. We don't have this deep looking, deep listening and loving speech. With our parents, for example. Let's say our parent told us, maybe as a child, I don't know if you have had this experience, but sometimes maybe a child will come and then pull on the parent's sleeve and say, "Mom, mom, mom, look at what I drew." And then the mom's like, "No, I'm busy. Yeah, later. And then for a little 4-year-old child or 3-year-old child, that can become a knot in one's heart. The first feeling of neglect. My mom is not paying attention to me. Maybe she doesn't love me. And then maybe if we're doing something, we're playing, we're having so much fun, we're splashing around in a puddle of water, and then we're muddy, and then we come in and we get yelled at. "Why did you dirty your clothes? Now we have to do laundry. Why can't you ever, be a good role model for your brother, for your sister?" And then all of this yelling and blaming, it just becomes more knots and more knots. And you notice what happens to the string. And let's say we're a little bit older. And then maybe we get in trouble. And then we lie. And we tell our parents, "Yeah, I'll be home by this time." And then we end up not coming home by that time. We get yelled at again. "You can never be trustworthy." And then some more wrong perceptions and some more yelling. And then imagine. We have this huge knot in our hearts. And many of us may carry these knots for the rest of our lives if we're not lucky to have the safe environment, the safe support to untie these knots. Sometimes when I have a lot of knots in my heart with someone who I love, it's very hard to talk to them. It's very hard to look at them in the eye or to hear anything they have to say. So how do I untie all of these knots? We come back to deep looking, deep listening, loving speech, and understanding. So let me just put all of this up here. For example, if I if I'm a parent and my child lies to me, what do you think my reaction will be? Will I punish this child or this teen? Why did you lie to me? How dare you lie to me? Or I can practice deep looking and I can see, what is the cause of our lying? What is really at the heart of lying? Because we are afraid. We are afraid that if we tell the truth, our loved ones will no longer love us. Usually that's the case. But let's say I told the truth. Maybe the child told the truth, and I can see right through the fear, this fear of maybe I won't love this child anymore. And if I tell the child, sometimes we make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's better to tell the truth, even if we made the mistake. And then the knot can be untied because, okay, so I get a second chance. So I get this understanding that really it was because of my fear and not because I'm a bad person. And that will make me more motivated to not lie because I can feel this unconditional love. Unconditional love, I have to say, is very different from empowering someone's unwholesome habit energies. This unconditional love helps us to change our unwholesome habit energies. When we love somebody, we don't want to disappoint them, then we will try our utmost best to be the best version of ourselves for them. So in this way, this is the unconditional love that I'm talking about. So the more we talk with loving speech, with deep listening and deep looking, the more we can untie these knots. I have a very simple example of wrong perceptions that also often makes us have internal knots. A long time ago, I was in a cooking team in Lower Hamlet for the summer retreat. And we had about 300 plus friends, and I was in charge of cooking rice. And back then, our pots were not the best pots. We had to use the gas stoves, and we only had a few pots that were that the rice wouldn't stick to the bottom of the pots. And my older sister in the cooking team, she told me, early in the morning, she asked me, "Did you cook rice yet?" And my response was like, "No, it's only like 6 a.m. Like, lunch isn't until like 12:30. And then I was like, whatever. And then she asked me again, "Did you cook rice yet?" And I was like, "Jeebish, like it's so early. Like, stop trying to micromanage me. Like, why are you always on my back?" And I was like, "No, not yet. Don't worry. I'll take care of it." Then she asked again. And each time she asked, I was like, another knot. I was like, And finally, I had it, and I was fed up, and I reacted, and I said, "Leave me alone. I got it. I'll cook rice. Don't worry. You never trust me. Blah 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 blah." And then she was like, "Oh no, I wasn't thinking like that. I just wanted to make sure you had enough pots, the good pots, to cook your rice, because nobody wants to have burnt rice for their summer retreat." I felt so embarrassed. So all these knots I had, she thinks so badly about me, she never trusts me, bossy older sister, all of these knots were untied very easily. I realized, I was thinking about habit energies, and that led me to my wrong perceptions, because I have seen her be bossy before, to me and to others. So I thought maybe she's just trying to be controlling and micromanaging, and I didn't want her to boss me around. I wanted to show that I am also an adult kind of thing. So we can untie the knots in our hearts from the wrong perceptions, the habit energies. And these are also some more obstacles. And they are called the blame game. Anybody familiar with the blame game? You blame everybody else for all your problems in your world, whether they're your parents, your friends, your coworkers. But this blame game, actually, to help us overcome the blame game, we can look deeply to see what have we contributed to the situation. What are the causes and conditions? What we could have done better and to own to our mistakes, own up to our part. What could we have done? But also to accept that those are just the causes and conditions at the time. And then one other thing that I ask myself often is, what if it were me? If I was in that situation, would I want someone to be that harsh and blame me? So those are some things we can look at. Another obstacle is called, let's see, I'll take this one here, self-righteousness. In this self-righteousness, there's a lot of pride. There's a sense of, I'm right and you're wrong. Mic drop. And sometimes we may think also, it's all my fault. I take all the blame. Why was I even born? All I do is ever make mistakes. And the other one is, it's all your fault. So these are all extremes. And when we have pride in our relationship, then we can re-examine to see, is it really true love if we have pride? If we're unable to talk to each other for 20 years or more, is it really true love, or is it just our hurt and our pain, our internal knots that we were unable to untie and resolve? Now, earlier, when I mentioned our parental love, there was actually one example that I wanted to connect to this. How many of you have practiced deep listening with your parents before? Was it successful? I see some nodding, some. So the level of our deep listening matters. How deep is your deep listening? When we listen to judge and to react, to correct, no, that was a wrong perception, no, or no, but that was because, and we justify in our heads, that's not deep listening. Deep listening is really allowing the entire space for the other person to unravel all of their suffering, whether even if it is misunderstandings, even if it is wrong accusations, unfathomable like accusations even sometimes. But when we don't react, it doesn't mean that we agree that everything they said is right. It's simply that we want to prove to them that we're not being caught in who's right and who's wrong. We just allow them to share, and then we will find a different time to then hopefully offer more accurate information so they can understand where your experience and where you're coming from your perspective. So, to practice deep listening with our parents, we have to first master the art of deep listening to ourselves. If we cannot listen to ourselves, we cannot listen to anyone else. So for this, I actually have an example of one of my good friends who is a wake-upper. And this person shared with me that after the retreat, they were able to be honest with themselves and to see that a big suffering of young adults is the expectations that our parents have of us. And one of the expectations that our parents have of us is our career. Some parents have a very big say and say, you can or you can't. And this parent wanted this friend to only choose within these so-called safe careers. But actually, this friend found love in videography. And that's not really a safe occupation for some parents, especially if you have set ideas that, the art world, it's just very risky. And normally, when this wake-upper shared any conversations with their dad, then they would often fight and talk over each other. And deep listening means we don't interrupt the other person. Deep listening means we're not arguing, blaming, or interrupting. And this wake-upper decided that, I have to change things. How about I first start with appreciation? This is what we call flower watering, when we share our gratitude and our appreciation for others. So imagine if you are a parent, and suddenly your child is very kind and shares, "Thank you, Mom, thank you, Dad, for all of your hard work and your care for me." That's like the watering of a plant. If you are a cactus, wow, water. If you are a flower, you're about to wilt, and then you get some water, some unconditional love. Wow. We may think that trees don't need any water anymore. Look at this. You don't need water. Of course you do need water. Everyone needs water. How much percentage of water are you made up of? In the same way, we need unconditional love to live, to really live, not be half alive, but to thrive. So when this wake-upper started with love, loving speech, the parents' hearts, both parents, were able to, from this kind of state of mind, to relax and realize it wasn't threatening speech, but it was arriving at mutual understanding instead. So this wake-upper was able to share their heartfelt love and also their dreams. I just really love videography. This is my dream job. Please trust me. Please give me a chance to prove that, yes, I can succeed in this passion of mine. And whether I succeed or not, I take full responsibility. But please trust in me. And the parents were able to listen deeply because the child listened deeply. Because the child practiced loving speech. So we help each other with this art. And then the parents were also able to share all of their concerns, their worries, and also basically just their love, just in their way, which we may consider unskillful in how they share their love. And eventually, this friend was able to fulfill their dream of being a videographer. And I was very moved to hear this because it's not easy to talk with your parents if your parents have very set expectations of how you should be, how you shouldn't be. And if we don't want our parents' disappointment, of course we will try to do things even if it's against our will. I've heard stories of some young adults who, just to appease their parents, they will go through the grueling years of study for a degree, and then they'll just throw the degree at their parents. Are you happy? I'm done. Now I live my life. But that's very painful. And sure, we can be unskillful, but we can acknowledge that and then learn how to be skillful. And we can take initiative to start that healing process. I think true love always needs mutual respect. And as you can see, I'm running out of space and time. Mutual respect. So I've heard of arguments that start off with like this. I'm your mom. I'm your dad. You have to listen to me because I'm the parent. Have you heard that before? Do you agree? Sometimes, if it is a dangerous situation and the child doesn't know any better and they're running off into the road and the parent pulls them back, then we think, oh yeah, if you're standing on the parent side, that makes sense, right? It's for your safety. But some things we have to learn on our own. We have to have direct experience. And we have a saying in Vietnamese, which is called tương kính như tăng. It means that you respect each other just like guests. Which sounds kind of weird, because if you're family, you should be able to let down your guards. But this actually means to not take your loved ones for granted. I've always questioned myself, why are we so mean to our so-called loved ones? Why are we so disrespectful in how we talk, how we act to our parents or to our friends, our siblings? We really do take them for granted. And it's also habit energies. Habit energy is an energy that pushes us to do the same thing over and over. We know we shouldn't say this, we know we shouldn't do this, but we do it anyway. We think it's normalized. Everybody else does that. But we can re-examine that. So to respect others as you would guess, to be a really good host. Are you doing okay? Do you need something? Can I help you to feel more at ease? Can we offer the best of ourselves to our loved ones? That is the meaning of this mutual respect here. So it's a two-way street, not a one-way street. And sometimes it's hard to start off if it's a one-way street, but gradually, if the other person feels our freshness, feels our solidity, and our genuine love, our unconditional love, even if the other person doesn't meet our expectations, then gradually it can become mutual when they feel it's safe. Okay, you're not going to use anything against me? Okay. And then another thing is gratitude. Sometimes we think, oh, I know you already. Oh, you're just like that. But you know, we're very lucky to have whoever we have in our lives that are supporting us and loving us. They could have easily chosen anyone else. So when we nurture this gratitude, then after everything else fades away, the initial novelty, the initial honeymoon phase, or the physical attraction, when all of that fades, what remains in our relationship is the gratitude we have for each other. And it can't be just flattering, empty flattering words. It has to be genuine from the heart. So, as monastics, I don't know if you're curious about this, but in Plum Village, we have both monks and nuns. And this is quite revolutionary because normally we have nuns just as a nunnery and monks just in the monks' residence. Like there's not really having both monks and nuns practice together. But our teacher was very revolutionary. And also he didn't say, oh, okay, the nuns, you have to only respect the monks. He said, no, we practice mutual respect. And in our tradition, the nuns can also teach the Dharma. That is very precious. And this mutual respect, we practice in every aspect of our lives. And there's one specific aspect that I'm always grateful for. Every Lunar New Year, we practice touching the earth before each other. This is a sign of reverence between the monks and the nuns. And before we touch the earth, we will read a contemplation. We regard every monk, if I'm a nun, I am, then I regard all of my monks as my brothers. Whether they are my older brothers, my younger brothers, or whether if they are old enough to be my father, my uncle, even my grandpa, then I regard them literally as my blood relative. And in this way, we water the seed of reverence in each other, also to respect each other and not take each other for granted. And vice versa. The monks also practice this with the nuns. We speak a lot about Avalokiteshvara, and yesterday we also spoke about Samantabhadra. These bodhisattvas have wonderful qualities, and we practice to see the Avalokiteshvara in each of our nuns, and we practice to see the Samantabhadra qualities in each of our monks. And when we touch the earth like this, we put our hands, our palms in front of our hearts, we bring up to our forehead with all of our love and respect. And then when we touch the earth in front of each other, we practice interbeing. Everyone is a bodhisattva. And everyone is embodiment of true love. And if we bring this aspect to our everyday lives, we can enhance our love to a so-so love, to a very profound and meaningful love. And actually, when we speak about love, I also want to touch on what love isn't. Because I think sometimes we misuse the word love. For example, who has had a crush on somebody else before? Everyone. It doesn't have to be a romantic crush. It can also be a dharmic crush, which is like, oh, they practice so well. I want to be like them too. Oh, I want to have inner freedom and freshness and solidity. Wow, so much insight and wisdom. That's also a kind of crushing, but dharma crush. Having infatuation or idealizing someone. I used to idolize so many older brothers and older sisters. Wow, wow. And I, again, hold my breath when I'm around them and things like that. But I asked myself, what is wrong with me? Why am I looking outwards all the time? And I realized, the infatuation, idolizing other people, that leads me to attachment. Whether it's emotional or physical or pleasant or unpleasant. And I realized the heart of my attachments or my infatuation or idolizing others is really just because I haven't done a self-inventory. If I like something about somebody else, and I'm always looking outwards, I'm like, oh, I want to be humorous too. I want to, be diligent too. All these qualities. When I recognize I also have it in me, then I don't feel this need to search it outside of others as much. When I realized, oh, I'm attracted to these individuals because they're humorous, I'm like, I can be funny too. And then I laugh at myself and my jokes. And then I'm like, I don't need to look outwards anymore. I'm perfectly fine. What is this silly notion of I'm a half, I need to find another half to be whole? That's ridiculous. I'm whole. You like me, you don't like me, that's your problem. I like myself. I'm okay with myself and my shortcomings. That self-love is very comfortable. And we can continue to hone this feeling at home and okay in our skin and in our bodies. So another thing I want to talk about is possessiveness. When there's this dynamic of possessiveness, I always think like, ugh, there's no freedom in that. There's no wiggle room. And it's very stifling. Like, why? Why are they so possessive? Or why am I so possessive? And I think it's really, if you boil it down, it's just the fear of losing love. Oh, if you love that person, then you won't love me. Yeah, that might be the case if your heart is the size of a peanut. But if your heart is as large, as wide, and vast as the ocean, no problem. That's our full-time job as monastics. We want to love unconditionally many, many people and all beings. Another thing is for the emotional and physical attachment, in Vietnamese we call it vướng mắc, which is like when you have a speck of dust or an eyelash in your eye and it's very uncomfortable. So I noticed a sign of attachment, whether it's emotional or physical or even unpleasant and pleasant. Sometimes we think of attachment as only the pleasant kind, but there's also the unpleasant kind. And for both the pleasant and unpleasant, one of the signs that I notice for myself is when I'm in a crowd, I always look to see, are they there? Where are they sitting? If I like them, I want to be near them. If I don't like them, I want to be as far away as possible as I can be from them. And I boil it down to, again, self-reflection. What is it that I don't like in this other person that I have not yet learned how to accept unconditionally in myself? And then I breathe with that. And then when I'm able to take good care of my seeds, then even if I meet that person again, it's okay, because I have taken care of myself. Another thing is unrequited love. How many of you have experienced that? You love someone, they don't love you in turn. You shower them with affection, and they just want to stay far away from you as possible. You give them gifts, and they're like, I don't like them. So this is actually a big suffering, because this also makes us think that we are unloved. But that's not the case. What if we were speaking different languages? What if we speak different love languages? Like, for example, I have a grandma nun who I really love, and her love language is food. She was always giving everybody food. You want some instant noodles? You want some candy? You want some cookies, some chips? And then I have another, and sometimes this can be stifling in the sense where they want to stuff us and make us eat all the time. But then also some other love languages is money. Like my mom, she'd always give me money, like, here's some allowance. Here you go. So if we're speaking different love languages, like if my love language is quality of time, and if my sister is always busy organizing retreats, never having time to drink tea with me, then I can say, well, you don't love me. But maybe her love language is gifts. She wants to buy me gifts. And another kind of reason we often hear for couples who are busy is, oh, if I don't work and make all this money, how can I lavish you in this materialistic lifestyle that you're living? But if you say that to somebody whose love language is quality time, they'll be like, I don't need all of that. I just need you. And then we say, no, you don't. And then we argue, but it's just because we're speaking different love languages. So we can re-examine this. Another new thing I learned about is a term called love bombing. Who's experienced that? Oh my goodness. So this, I don't know how accurate it is, but one of the sites told me that there's an acronym, IDD, intense idealization. That's the first step. The second step is devaluation. Ouch. The last one is discard. Sounds so painful. So, of course, when we have this, we can feel a lot of suffering. Suddenly you are intense and you shower me with affection and gifts, and then suddenly I'm no good. And then suddenly discard. So, we can re-examine this. Do we do this to others? Do we experience this? We can come back to practicing deep looking, deep listening, loving speech to better understand this. Now, this last one is very important. Lust, sex. There's a difference between lust and sex with love. Many of us may have heard, well, if you love me, then you will have sex with me. But actually, that can be empty sex. That can be just craving. So we are invited to look deeply into this in our mindfulness trainings. In the 5 mindfulness trainings, we have a third training, which is called True Love. And in the 14 mindfulness trainings, we have the 14th one is called True Love. And this really is an invitation for us to look at how sexual desire, it cannot dissipate loneliness. We think that the other person can make us happy, or that we can feel satisfied by the other person. But sometimes it can, instead of the act of giving life, sometimes the act of giving life can actually take away life, real life. We can still walk around like as if we're alive, but we're half alive. So we are invited to look into the mindfulness training to see how can we have meaningful sex, not just empty sex. It's not a good or a bad, but how do we approach it so that it can be meaningful? In the mindfulness trainings, there are many things. And the 3 things I hope to cover, are, so there's this and this here. So here is generally a hot topic here. Let's go with this first, in case you are falling asleep. Let's talk about sexual energy. There you go. So, first off, let us just make this very clear that sexual energy is not bad, it is not good, it's just a kind of energy. Whether it is a cause of suffering or not depends on how we take care of it. In the mindfulness trainings for the monastics, we mentioned chastity. But I also want to make it clear that that doesn't mean that having sex is bad and practicing chastity is good. That's not the case. Just like a phone battery. There's my nephew there. But just like a phone battery, if you have so-called 100% battery and you have maybe 50 apps in here, you have to choose which apps do you want to use before your battery is drained. For some of us, we may need our phone to use for navigation as we're driving, and that can take up quite a lot of battery in the phone. For some of us, maybe we want to look at pictures. Maybe that will take less battery. And it's the same with our sexual energy. We have a finite amount of energy and resources. Where do we want to direct this? When we think about porn or masturbation, it's not a good or a bad, but it's, are we depleting ourselves, our energy? Is this where we want to direct our energy? When I am passionate about something, I want to have uninterrupted time to just immerse in that. For example, if I'm into art at the moment, then I don't want anyone to interrupt me. I just want to really be in there, in my art time. And for monastics, we invest all of our time and energy in a life of service. So to have a romantic relationship and family, and that takes away our energy to have to pay attention to many more things, just in the same way where instead of using just one app, if I also have many other apps going on in the background, then the battery will be drained quite quickly. And it's not a good or a bad, it's just what are your interests and where do you want to direct your energy. So for a monastic example, we also have sexual energy, but how do we take good care of it? We say in the mindfulness trainings that we will look deeply into the 4 nutriments. This is the 14th mindfulness training. Look deeply into the 4 nutriments in order to preserve and channel our vital energies, sexual, breath, and spirit, for the realization of our bodhisattva ideals. Now for the 4 nutriments, I'm noticing the time, so I may speed up a little bit. The 4 nutriments. The first one is edible food. The second one is sense impressions. The third one is volition. The fourth one is consciousness. You can find the Heart of the Buddha's teaching, which has all of these in a book later in the bookshop if you want. But for now, these are the 4. Now, for the first one, it's quite obvious. It's the food that we eat. The second one is called sense impressions, which is what we eat, what we consume through our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our everyday interactions. For example, advertisements, movies, music, conversations. Most of the advertisements that we see from the sex industry is like to water our seeds of craving, to water our seeds of not feeling adequate. We want from outside. And if you always see body parts being objectified, then of course It's easy for our animal nature to be water. It's easy for us to want to veer towards sex and sexual energy and desire to somehow fulfill that need. But how much is enough? When do we know that it is enough? And actually, is it really fulfilling our deepest dreams and desires? Is there more to life? Now imagine, just imagine, if we had big billboards of very happy monastics in the wake-up retreats with 820 people who are learning how to heal, how to blossom as happy humans. Imagine that. Everywhere you go, in movies, stories about transformation and healing, and mindful communities, and joyful living. Imagine that. And conversations, it doesn't revolve around consumerism, but it revolves around simple living, being content, reconciling with our loved ones. Can you imagine if those seeds were watered? We would have far more monastics. But now we are still a kind of invisible, endangered species. Now, if we water our sexual energy through what we hear, what we see, then for sure that is what will grow. If we continue to water, like with big drops, of course this will continue to grow. But why do we have the emphasis on mindful practices? Mindful breathing, mindful walking, mindful eating. This is an example of mindfulness, the energy of mindfulness. Last year I used the example of mindful mama. This year we can use a general sun. We can also replace it with different words that work for us, like papa presence, for example, or whatever else we feel works. But for now, happy sun here. This sun ray can embrace our sexual energy. For example, breathing in. I literally hug my seed of sexual energy. It's okay. It's okay to be here. It's not good or bad. Whether we use this to create mini versions of ourselves, or it's upside down, huh? It's also okay too. Whether I want to rechannel this energy into arts, into finding other creative ways, so be it. Why not? It doesn't have to only be to reproduce mini me's. That's a wonderful way, but that's not the only way. But we tend to hear the emphasis that that is the only way. But actually, I am producing a lot of mini me's through my way of being, through our retreats. Maybe not necessarily in this form, but in my way of living, through my younger siblings, through my older siblings, through our retreatants, through the children and the teens that come to our retreats. Anyhow, so this is not something to be shamed or shunned or repressed, but it is also not something to say, just go rampant, wild, sure, doesn't matter. This is a kind of fire, and if we know how to take good care of this fire, it can be beneficial. If not, it can become a forest fire. And if we have a lot of forest fires, that would be kind of difficult to live. So whether we have this a lot or a little depends on how much we water, how much we allow ourselves to be watered, and how much we actively water it. And for monastics, we change that, we rechannel it into what we call bodhicitta, the mind of love, the mind of understanding. Traditionally, it is called awakening. And for me, that sounds like a very foreign word. What does awakening mean? But our teacher has translated to understanding and love. And this is actually a bodhi tree. These are the bodhi leaves. Supposedly, the Buddha sat underneath an ancient bodhi tree here. And with contemplation, that's how he learned the art of understanding and love. So we can easily transform sexual energy into bodhicitta or not. It's also okay, up to us. The idea of this embracing whatever the seeds are is to help the seed to either practice total relaxation and then maybe sleep for a long time so it doesn't grow. So we can focus on other seeds we do want to nourish. For example, we say in true love there are 4 elements. There's loving kindness, which is so heavy it cannot really stand by itself. That's a hefty seed there. So there's loving kindness, there's compassion, there's joy, and equanimity. And the thing is, for loving kindness, I tend to use the word friend as a simple shortcut. This friend is literally a friend, not a frenemy. This friend is someone who can pay attention to us, notice what makes us sparkle, what sparks our joy, and then they can help us to water those seeds of joy. For example, if your friend likes blueberries, you can buy them blueberries. If your friend just needs you to listen, just listen. Don't interrupt. So this friend helps us to bloom. Another example is compassion. So for compassion, I really am grateful for Tai's example of the word compassion because he told us that compassion is not a wishy-washy thing. It's not empathy in the sense of, oh, poor you, I'm superior, but it's okay. It's not that. It's an action of relieving suffering. An example I often resort to is if I'm walking by and there is a snail, I can either say, oh, poor you, I hope nobody steps on you. Or I can go, oh, let me actually bend over, pick it up, and then maybe hide it behind a leaf or something so it's protected from birds and from unmindful feet that might crush it. So this is an action that actually relieves suffering. The 3rd element is joy. This joy is the opposite of, where is it? Seed of jealousy. How come they always get that? How come I never get it? Jealousy is also a fear of being unloved. It's not bad. It's just a kind of insecurity. So we need to also give it a hug too. So, in this joy, there's a sense of interbeing, of non-self. We have a song, your joy is my joy is your joy. In that sense, your success stories, your failures, it's also mine. And jealousy or loneliness, it can also appear when other people have joy. When we see other people's Instagrams or their posts, they all look so happy. No, it's a part, maybe not the whole picture, but whatever it is, that's great for you. We are all human beings. Everyone's success or failures, we're all interrelated. That is called the seed of interbeing here. So, interbeing is another term we can be quite helpful for true love. So, for example, we have the primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. And when they come together, they create red and blue create purple, and then red and yellow create orange, and blue and yellow create green. So we cannot really take one element out of the other color. We all need these elements to come together to make this possible. In our relationships, it's the same as well. So I would like to invite everyone to please look under your mat. There should be a piece of paper. And if you have what is called the magic wand here, then you can take out your magic wand. And then On your piece of paper, I would like you to please fold your paper into 4. So you have 4 parts. And please, without having to whisper to your neighbors or anything, please really regard this as your solo homework. We can let our mouths rest still and let our hands use the magic wand. And let us write down 3, write number 1, 2, 3 in the first box for self-love. So basically, the first box we write self-love, underline, and then 1, 2, 3. In the second box, we can write self-hatred, and then underline 1, 2, 3. And then we can write down 3 good qualities that we have in ourselves, maybe from our parents or from ourselves. And on the self-hatred, maybe 3 unwholesome habit energies that we notice, or if there are strong emotions that we feel have taken over our lives, we want to practice hugging meditation with. What is the obstacle for you to truly love yourself? What is the great condition for you to love yourself? And then please also write on the column of self-love, please write some loving words to yourself. For example, in French culture, there is a very lovely way of saying it's okay. We say, c'est pas grave. And even, c'est pas grave, mon petit chou. It's so cute. So this is a form of loving kindness. And, oh goodness, it works. So this is an example of loving speech. Another one is, alles gut. So you can choose something from your language, from your culture. And another one in English is, I believe in you. You got this. You can do this. So we can practice loving speech to ourselves. And we can also continue to practice this after as well. But let me invite you to continue to do this self-inventory. You can write down all of your insecurities, all of your fears in the corner, in the column of the self-hatred, and then also all your hopes and dreams and all of the loved ones that you have in your life. For example, for me, I would write Tai, or I would write my parents, or people who have given me love. And this self-inventory is kind of like saying, I'm facing my fears. I'm facing what I like and what I don't like about myself. In the same way where if you open up your wallet and you see, how much money do I have? Ooh, I have 100. Ooh, I have 5. Now, if in my pocket I have $100, I have 100 euros, and if you tell me you don't have 100 euros, you only have 2 pennies, 2 centimes, I'd be like, what? Or if I say, I know I have 100 euros, right? I'm in my pocket. But if you tell me you only have 32 euros, you're no good. But if I didn't know, if I didn't do inventory, I didn't really check what do I do have, I might have self-doubt and say, maybe I do only have 32 euros. Oh no. But if I open up and I see, oh, I do have 100 euros, then I can just say, oh, you don't know, I know. It's my pocket, I know. So in the same way, if we know our self-worth, we can continue to add more euros in the qualities or the habit energies, the wholesome, unwholesome. If we do the self-inventory, then it's easier to practice self-love. And then we can also offer that to everybody else. I would like to invite everyone to actually pause. You can practice this in your own time. I'd like to invite Sister Hugh to please come up here. And I'd like to offer an example, a last example, before we head off to our favorite meditation of the day called eating meditation. I would like to invite Sister Hugh to please sit here. Can you see her over here? Can you see her if she sits here? Everyone over there, I hope you can see too. Or in the middle. Okay, here is okay. It will be very quick, so don't worry. We're almost there. Ooh. I hope that works. So when we come to the monastery and when we practice the basic Dharma doors of walking meditation, eating meditation, sitting meditation, singing meditation, all of these things have a point to them. And after she shows our demo, then I will share a little bit more. So first off, thank you, Sister Yu, for accepting a very last-minute request. So she will show us 2 demos, number 1 and number 2. This is demo number 1.
Joy from the simple thing coming from the earth. I get my joy from the sun that shines, and the water speaks to me.
Thank you, dear sister. So this is the first demo. You might have noticed something. Now this is the second demo. Let's see if you notice something from this demo.
I get my joy from the simple things coming from the earth. I get my joy from the sun that shines, and the water speaks to me. Listen to the wind and listen to the water. Hear what they say together. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Singing hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho.
So thank you, dear sister. Now, did you notice in the first demo what was really happening there? She was very out of tune. The instrument was out of tune, right? But in the second demo, she tuned it. She tuned it so that she was in tune. And then she started singing. And then she invited everyone to sing together. And basic practices are also like the strings of the guitar. The walking meditation, the eating meditation, singing meditation, Dharma sharings, they're each a string of the guitar. And when we come to the monastery, when we have a lot of suffering that we haven't been able to transform yet, we're kind of like an out-of-tune guitar. And imagine if we had a whole orchestra and we were all out-of-tune instruments. Oftentimes, war is like that. But when we come to retreat and we tune ourselves so that whatever musical instrument that you are, whether you're a guitar, whether you're a violin, a cello, etc., then we can come together and have an orchestra that is very wonderful and healing. We could already sense the generating of love that we had by our singing together for just a very short, brief moment just now. So in the same way, whether we have received love from our loved ones, whether we generate this love, it's okay to be out of tune sometimes with our suffering, but let us learn how to tune ourselves every time we need to. And then we can play the songs of unconditional true love. If we have received love, don't let that love die. Like when our teacher passed away, we could easily said, okay, Thay's passed away. There's nothing else. We're done. Or we could have, as we are doing now, continue to live for Thay, continue to spread the love that he has given to us. So in the same way, if you have received the love, don't let it die. And if you haven't, you can generate it together with your local sanghas, whether here in Plum Village or worldwide, with like-minded friends. That's all the sangha is. Mindful communities. And as young people, we can totally change whatever we don't like. System change, whatever it is. Like, we have the power to do what we may think is not possible if we are equipped with the power of true love. Thank you everybody for coming and for retuning your instrument. And now let us continue in this orchestra of true love in the form of mindful eating. So let us listen to a sound of a bell before we continue.